My husband Jim was officially diagnosed with dementia 4 years ago. He had been going to see a psychiatrist for about a year for depression, but none of the prescribed drugs were helping. Then the doctor and myself started to notice that Jim's posture was starting to stoop and that he was shuffling when he walked. He was also starting to see people that weren't there and hear noises that weren't there. The best example is that he would always hear the doorbell and no one was there. And there was a lot of confusion on doing everyday things. Even some things he had been doing his whole life, such as brushing his teeth. After diagnosis, you read everything you possibly can about the disease. And believe me, it is not easy to read what this disease will do to your loved one. You know that both of your lives and those of your children's will never be the same. The medicine they prescribe for dementia does help them to function better while they are in the mild or moderate stage, but it does not stop the progression of this horrific disease. With Lewy body dementia, which is what Jim has, he would do well for a while, and then I would notice changes in him, and I knew the disease was progressing. Sometimes it would be as long as 6 months that things would be going along at the same pace, and then sometimes just weeks. Even having read everything I did on this disease, I swore that Jim would never go to a nursing home. And myself, along with our children, my sisters, and some in-home care, I would always keep him at home. In fact, I had just found some in-home care so that I could run errands during the day and not have to worry about Jim being home alone. So everything changed the day he wandered out on a snowy and cold February morning with no shoes and no coat. I got in my car and was able to pick him up with lots of persuasion at the end of our block. He still did get frostbite on his toes in such a short time. 12 hours later, he got out again. But I got a little smarter because earlier that afternoon I put shoes on his feet as I could tell he was getting anxious and restless again. Our son was over at this time and he grabbed his dad's coat and put it on him. This time neither one of us could persuade him to get into the car and come home. Our son walked, and sometimes Jim would be walking and sometimes he would be jogging with his dad for almost 2 hours. I was following them at a close distance to pick them up. It was still lightly snowing, and I believe that because Jim finally got exhausted, or that his mind was calming down, he fell and he hit his head on the cement on his temple. We took him to emergency to make sure that he did not have a concussion, which he did not. But out of the kindness of Dr. Washington, they ran tests on him to make sure nothing else was up with him, and then they would be able to admit him overnight. I believe that good doctor could see that I was at my wit's end as to what I would do if I had to take him home that night. At this point, I do not know who was more exhausted, my husband or myself. The next morning, when I went to the hospital, I was informed that Jim could and should not go home with me, that he needed to go to a nursing home with a locked unit. Oh, no way was that happening, because I was going to take care of him. Remember what I had said previously? Well, after 2 days of listening to the professionals, talking to our children, and calming my heart, I had to admit that they were right. I still didn't have peace with it, but I realized it was the best for him and for me. As one of the palliative nurses told me, you can be his wife again and not his caregiver. So since I had not done any research on nursing homes, even that is what is highly recommended when a loved one is diagnosed with this disease, that this is what you should do, I had no clue what was out there. Since Jim needed to go to a nursing home with a locked unit, I was told that Harbor Haven was the only facility with this available, and they had an opening. So another new chapter in our life began, and I had no idea how it was going to turn out. Would it be a good nursing home are one of those homes that you hear those horrific stories about. It has all been good. Was it easy to leave Jim there? Definitely not. But as the days and then the weeks and then the months, and now it's been over a year, it is easier because he is home. Not the home that we built and raised our children in, but the home where he can get 24-hour care that he needs and where we all know that he is safe and well taken care of. The staff is really good to him and to myself, our children and family and friends that come to visit. They are kind to Jim. They let me know if he's having a good day or a bad day, how he's been eating and sleeping, taking his medicine. They tell me funny stories about the things he says or does, even the not so funny stuff, but they share because they care. This is a horrific disease that robs your loved ones of their dignity and their intelligence. But I believe that they are still there deep inside, and you get to see little bits and pieces of them every now and then. And when it happens, those are the best days for you, and you treasure those moments, and you tuck those moments in your heart for those days when they won't remember you. I knew of the Alzheimer's Walk from having gone to some Alzheimer's support group meetings, but never participated. But when I started to visit my husband at Harbor Haven and seeing how they promoted the importance of the walk by having fundraisers among their employees and visitors to the facility, it made me realize that I had to do something. So last year, my son and I set up a team and raised over $2,200. Our best word of mouth came from Facebook. We each posted it to our page and why we were doing it. He for his dad, me for my husband. The most touching donations came from people whom I haven't seen for years and that I'm not even friends with on Facebook. There are no words for how much this meant to me. I do not know how many people's lives this disease has touched, but I know that when it does, it is a feeling of complete hopelessness. There is no cure. There is no hope for your loved one to get better. It is a game of wait and see. You wait and you see the person you love become someone who can no longer process simple tasks, feed themselves, toilet themselves, take a shower or bathe themselves, and even dress themselves. I go to visit my husband daily, and I have come to know and love the other residents on his unit. Some, depending on what type of Alzheimer's or how far it has progressed, can be challenging on certain days, and the staff amazes me as how they handle those situations. I would have loved to know these residents before the disease took their dignity, took their life from them. I love being up there on their good days, when you get to see a glimpse of the kind of person they once were and is still in there. You get to see their sense of humor and share their laughter. You get to see their kindness to someone. You get some words of wisdom. Even their competitiveness when they play bingo or beanbags is fun to watch. This disease doesn't discriminate because some of these residents were once some very intelligent, gifted, and respected individuals before Alzheimer's took over their lives. So this walk is not for my husband and the other residents I have grown to love at Harbor Haven. This disease is too far advanced in them, but it is for the research that needs to be done so that Alzheimer's does not rob someone you know or love of their dignity, so that someone you know or love doesn't need 24-hour care because they can no longer function on their own, so that family members do not have to feel so hopeless and alone as they watch their loved ones slowly lose their dignity. Even though I said this walk was not for my husband and the residents at Harbor Haven that had become family to me, because the disease is too far advanced in them, I believe that they would still smile and say thank you for not letting anyone else go through what they and their families are going through. They would say thank you for your support to find a cure.